In the early part of the pandemic, on a Saturday in April, I received a phone call that would become all too common. Pastor G, you know that my mom is in the hospital with complications from COVID-19. We've only been allowed to visit her through a glass window. Yesterday, when mom could no longer speak, a caring nurse held her cell phone up to my mom's ear. And I forced back my tears as I said goodbye to my mom over the phone. Hours later, Sharon and I stood all masked up and socially distanced in this family's front yard. That's as close as we could get. Longing to take this daughter into my arms and comfort her, but only able to give small comfort from a distance. I tell you, it broke my heart, and it was repeated over and over and over again throughout last year. Each of you in this room has your own story of personal loss, as we've suffered through and continue to suffer through an unprecedented season that has robbed us of loved ones, personal health, job security, and perhaps worst of all, ripped away our fragile sense of security. I don't know about you, but I'll just admit there were times when I was a mess during the heart of the pandemic. I battled daily anxiety and a deep sense of being psychologically frozen, unable to get unstuck from the feeling that life would never again be the same. Actually, I do know about you. I quickly learned that I wasn't alone in my struggle as I heard the same stories coming from my brothers and sisters in this church family. Was this normal? Absolutely. Did our good Father understand and empathize with our struggle? Totally. And yet, when I finally opened up to the Lord about my personal fears, I sensed these words forming in my mind. My child, my son, you need something greater. You need something larger than a pandemic to fill your heart. So for the next 2 weeks, let's pursue that something greater. Let's go on a journey together to discover that every one of us who know Jesus are fashioned for forever. Each of us is built for eternity, and as living forever people, we are set free from looking to this world for the fulfillment, joy, and peace that will only be ultimately found in God's kingdom that we've been singing about. So when this world turns upside down, we do not need to be shaken. You know, as Jesus' followers were about to have their lives turned upside down by his death on the cross, it's fascinating to me that he didn't try to encourage them with words like, hey, we're all in this together. Sound familiar? Or, cheer up, guys. We faced a lot worse stuff than this. Not true. Or even, I know it looks bad now, but tomorrow will be better. Actually, tomorrow was a lot worse. No. Jesus strengthened the disciples by giving them something bigger, something greater, a vision that was so far beyond what they were about to face. As Jesus shared his last meal with them, he said, don't let your heart be troubled. You believe in God. Believe also in me. My Father's house has many rooms. If that were not so, would I have told you that I am going there to prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you to be with me, that you also may be where I am. So Jesus prepared his disciples for their worst day ever. And he's longing to prepare us in this room today for our worst day ever by giving them and us a vision of something beyond the hardships of this world. This verse always reminds me when I was pastoring a church years ago, and I spoke on this verse. One of our elders' wives came up to me after the service, and she stuck her finger right in my face, and she said, "Pastor, my Bible says God is preparing a mansion for me, and I'm not going to settle on any small little junky, puny room." So I don't know what translation you're reading from today, but I've got good news for you. God is preparing something so amazing for each one of us, it would take our breath away just to have a little glimpse of it today. You see, we all live in the in-between time measured by when Jesus first came to earth and his return visit. The Bible has a lot to say about the timeline between the promise and the fulfillment of God's ultimate end game. Romans 8 talks about the longing that we all have for something more, something beyond what we can see and feel and touch today. We long for our bodies to be released from sin and suffering. We too wait with eager hope for the day when God will give us our full rights as his adopted children, including the new bodies he has promised us. We were given this hope when we were saved. If we already have something, we don't need to hope for it. But if we look forward to something we don't yet have, we must wait patiently and confidently. Are you looking forward to something greater today? During this in-between time, we only catch a brief glimpse of God's full plan for us and for his world. Here's what we know right now today. Jesus has risen from the grave, defeating sin and death, and those who receive Jesus' perfect sacrifice for their sins have been adopted into God's forever family and are every day being transformed to be more and more like Jesus himself. And dear friends, that is great and glorious and wonderful and fantastic good news today. Can I get an amen? I really wanted an amen. Yet, it's painfully clear that God hasn't made everything right, isn't it? We deal with deadly diseases, fractured relationships, injustice, racism, and the list just goes on. Has God forgotten his promises and turned away from us? Well, I admit, it's easy to buy into that belief in the midst of the hardships and the heartaches of this life. But the Bible makes it clear that you and I live in a time that is in between the living hope brought about by Jesus' first visit to earth and the ultimate fulfillment of that hope, which right now is still just hope. So while we're waiting, how do we survive living each day in between? Here's a couple tools to help us along on our journey. Living in between means never being surprised or confused by trouble. You know, as hard as I've tried, I can't find anywhere in the Bible where God promises any one of us a life of ease, free from the brokenness of this world. Yet it's so easy to blame God when my body breaks down, my finances fall short, my relationships unravel, and life comes apart at the seams. Somewhere along the way, we bought into the lie that God owes those of us who follow him health, prosperity, and success. Now, don't get me wrong. Surrendering our lives to God has unbelievable benefits in the now. Living by Bible principles brings us fulfillment, joy, and great peace. But we should never be shocked when trouble comes our way because, dear friends, we are living in between the promise and the reality of God's ultimate plan. Jesus himself said, in this world, you'll have trouble. I pray that life is good for you today. I really do. But we should know from last year, we should know from last week that in this world, trouble is just around the next turn. Jesus encourages us on our journey with these words. Cheer up, take heart, be encouraged. I have conquered, I have overcome the world. But the overcoming Jesus is talking about will only fully come into view when God the Father finally turns to his Son and says, enough is enough. I can't bear to see the brokenness of my world any longer. Go back now and make everything new. While we're waiting, God reminds us of all he has in store. When in his goodness, he does heal our bodies, our relationships. He provides daily bread and blesses us in countless other ways. But never forget this. Every good and perfect gift from our Father on high in this life is just a taste, just a whiff of what lies in store for us when Jesus comes back. I know a beautiful Christ follower who lives in constant moment by moment pain, loves the Lord with all of her heart, but one awkward twist and a ligament or tendon snaps, sending a bone piercing through her parchment thin skin. Every day, my friend wakes up to the same horrible ordeal. To Kate and to each of you who are suffering in terrible ways today, I ask you to consider this scenario. Imagine God shedding tears over the pain of his children, the pain that this sin-drenched world brings to his kids, longing to give the world the word that it's time to end all the suffering. Suddenly, his attention turns from Kate, and he looks to that one person who still hasn't come to Jesus. And God responds as he did for me and as he did for you. Just one more day to reach that one with the good news about what my son has done. That's what world missions, global missions is all about. I have to wait one more day before making all things new so that one can join me for all eternity. Have you thought about the awful tension that our good Father lives in every day, longing to lift the burden off of our lives, but waiting for that last one to finally come home? While we wait for God to do away with injustice and pain, The Bible reminds us that those who live in between must walk by faith. Living in between means walking by faith, not by sight. 1 Corinthians 13 makes it clear that right now we see life imperfectly, like puzzling reflections in a mirror. I'm amazed how hard we work to achieve clarity with minds that aren't even hardwired to understand everything that happens to us in this life. That same chapter promises that a time is coming when we will see with perfect clarity, just as God now sees each one of us. While we wait, life as conquerors, life as overcomers in a world that can bring us great joy, but indescribable pain, starts when we decide to believe what God says, not just what our eyes and our emotions and our senses can tell us. The Good News paraphrase of Hebrews 11:1 gives us the key. To have faith is to be sure of the things we hope for, to be certain of the things we cannot see. But the huge question in this room and in our lives today is simply this: what are we hoping for? Chances are, if our hopes and dreams are wrapped up in the temporary rewards of this world, we're setting ourselves up for enormous disappointment. In fact, Pastor Rick Warren writes that this life we're living right now is just a rehearsal for the real thing that's yet to come. You know, as a younger man, I felt invulnerable. I never thought that my life would come to an end in this world. Now, with a lot more miles on the treads of my life, a body that doesn't look like it once did or work like it once did, the pain of saying farewell to loved ones and the constant daily strain of living in a great world, but in a greatly broken world, heaven, a place where, according to Revelation 21, there will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain, for those things are gone forever. Heaven is looking better and better to me every day. How about you? If you're struggling to find hope today, if you're anxious and fearful, if you're burdened down with the cares of this life, I urge you to get in touch with God's promises in the Bible. Take your eyes off your circumstances, as tough and heartbreaking as they may be, and begin to retrain yourself to live day by what you can't see. Listen to Paul's timeless words in 2 Corinthians 4. So we do not give up. Our physical body is becoming older and weaker, but our spirit inside us is made new every day. Yes, we have small troubles for a while now, but they are helping us gain an eternal glory that is much greater than the troubles. We set our eyes, here it is, not on what we see, but what we cannot see. What we see will last only a short time, but what we cannot see will last forever. God's antidote, God's solution to the cares of this world is to lift your eyes and take in his vision of something greater that is more real and more sure than anything we can touch today. To apply what we've learned together, I'm asking you to do this week. Make a list of the ways, be specific. Make a list of the ways you've been living by what you can feel, hear, and see. Write it down, write them down, and then spend time each day praying through that list, asking God to help you give him your anxiety and worries about tomorrow. As we prepare for Holy Communion, this is a time for those who are viewing us from home to gather the emblems of the bread and the cup. Let's sing together this wonderful chorus that speaks about what we've been sharing. Turn your eyes upon Jesus. Look full in his wonderful face, and the things of earth will grow strangely dim in the light of his glory. And you can do better than that. Let's lift it together, everyone. Turn your eyes upon Jesus. Look full in his wonderful face, and the things of earth will grow strangely dim in the light of his glory and grace.
Thank you for watching Blackrock Church's Sunday service. We're so glad you found us, and we hope this message made you feel more connected to God. In talking about connection, we find that it's super important for people to be connected to others and to community in order to grow in their faith. So if you're in the area, we invite you to join us to worship in a service. You can find out about our times and locations right here on this webpage. We'd also love to help you connect in a group and find people who can walk alongside you as you continue deepening your understanding and faith. And after you get to know us, you might even like to use your gifts to serve on a team. We believe God gave each of us unique gifts that we can use to serve those around us. One body with many different parts. If you're not able to be here in person, don't worry. We have a great online community and many ways for you to join in virtually and talk to us throughout the week. You can also stay in touch on our website, YouTube channel, Facebook, and Instagram. By visiting our website, you can also easily give your offering one time as an online gift or a reoccurring gift. Just click Give at the top. The Bible tells us that tithing is an important part of our relationship with Jesus, and we want to continue to trust God with our lives and our finances. Well, we are so glad you made the choice to get to know us and view one of our services. We hope that you join us next week. Thanks so much for watching.